Okay, next on the agenda, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dallas Brown, the General Manager. Dallas.
Thanks, Louis. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 82nd annual meeting, Member Appreciation Day. I'd like to thank the Octagon Barn Committee for allowing us to have it here. This is the third straight year we've had it at this facility, and we've heard nothing but positive comments from those who have attended the last couple of years. And again, the reason we sort of switched venues was to try to promote what they have here, the historic and educational things here. So after the meeting and after lunch, I'd encourage you all to travel the grounds and take a look at all the very cool things that they have here. One of the things that makes this meeting a success is your involvement and your engagement. So what I have for you this morning, I have about 10 minutes of prepared notes, and then touching on a few highlights of 2018, a few projects for 2019, and then I'm going to turn things over, open the floor up for questions and answers, to hear comments and questions from you, you the members of the cooperative. Can everyone hear me in the back okay? All right. So first of all, from a safety perspective, 2018 was another successful year. Thumb Electric employees and contractors working on our property continued to work safely. Now, while we did have an incident last year that ended our 3-year streak without a lost time accident, it was a minor injury, and we are thankful for that. As you are aware, line crews work in a potentially dangerous environment every day, and when crews are restoring and fixing problems in the dark and sometimes during very inclement weather, those dangers increase substantially. So at this time, I'd like you to join me in a round of applause in recognition of all the employees and contractors that work safely. Thank you. In 2018, Louis said we weren't impacted by too many major storms. Well, he was correct, but we were actually impacted by 2 major weather-related events that impacted service to some of our members. If you remember, first in April, a lot of our area was hit with an ice storm, which impacted about 1,400 members. For that storm, we reached out to some neighboring utilities, and we brought on 7 additional linemen to assist us in that restoration effort, which took 2 days. And then a month later, if you remember, we were hit with a major wind event, not only our area, but statewide, which impacted service to about 3,000 of our members. And for that storm, we reached out to our statewide organization, MECA, asked for additional crews from other co-ops, and we brought in 25 additional linemen to help our crews and employees with what turned out to be a 3-day restoration effort. So far in 2019, our system's been holding up against Mother Nature pretty well. We did, however, have a substation transformer fail at our Vassar substation on Saturday, February 2nd, which left approximately 1,500 of our members in the dark. Our crews transferred some of the load to other circuits and substations, and then they set up and mobilized our portable substation and restored power to the rest of the members. So some members experienced about a 4-hour outage. Others it took about 12 hours before we were able to get the portable set up at that location and energized. So we've been going so far so good. I'll knock on wood here. So while Mother Nature can definitely wreak havoc on our system and your electric service, there are some things that we can do to minimize the impact of that, and that's by being proactive. We have been and we continue to be proactive. One of the things we continue is our aggressive right-of-way program on scheduled circuit works and other identified areas, problem areas on our system. We use Cap and Tree Services. They're a great organization. They're very professional, and they know how to do things safely. It's very important that we achieve the right-of-way clearance that is needed to ensure the safety of our workers, the public, and so you, the member, can have reliable and uninterrupted service. Our goal in our program is to cut trees to the ground when possible, and not to trim those trees, because every time we trim that tree, we have to come back in future years and spend more of your money trimming that same tree. So I appreciate everybody that's helped us, property owners that have helped us so far achieve that. For those that haven't been approached by our tree crews or our employees about removing some of your trees, trimming them to the ground, I'd ask you that you remember it's all about providing great service, and it's all about not spending your money unwisely. And we feel that the more trees we trim, and those trees we're going to have to come back to at a later time, we're not spending your money as wisely as we can. So another thing we do to be proactive is with board approval, we continue making capital investments to rebuild aged and underperforming circuits. We have contractors on the property right now finishing up a 15-mile project from our Kindy substation to our Ubley substation. And that project project consists of electric transmission and distribution along with fiber communication circuits. Later this year, we also have plans to rebuild about 11 miles of single-phase circuits and convert those to three-phase circuits. By the end of the year, we plan to have a new community solar program available to complement the 2 existing programs we have available for our members. We plan to start deployment of an AMI, or an automated metering infrastructure system, around the Ubley area later this fall. Once we are assured that that system is operating as we expect it to, we'll start full deployment in 2020. Last year, in August, we actually added a hybrid electric vehicle to our fleet to complement the traditional gas and diesel vehicles and the 8 vehicles that we currently run on propane. So I have the luxury of driving that vehicle. Electric vehicles are not going away. You're going to see more and more of them, and we have to make sure our system is built to handle the additional load that's going to come on because of that. We continue to offer a full slate of programs and services to you, our members, that we have for years to help you become more energy efficient and save money. Home energy audits, energy efficient rebates, loans, controlled water heating and cooling programs, LED security lights, private tree trimming, surge protection, and propane services are just a few of the programs that we offer. If you're not participating in any of these programs, or you're not aware of them, talk to the staff at the registration table, and they'll help you get set up so you can start realizing some savings that come along with these programs. We continue to work with our statewide and national organizations and our elected officials both from Lansing and Washington, which we have a few of them here today. You'll hear from them later. To make sure that the interests of the co-ops, the electric co-ops, are heard. It's very important. The political arena, although politics is not everyone's favorite word, politics does play a big role in your organization here at the co-op. We continue to try to promote and encourage you, the members, to participate directly in ACRE. which is the Political Action Committee for Electric Co-ops. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that or participating, again, they'll be able to help you at the registration table. So that concludes my prepared notes. And at this time, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions or comments that you might have, either on the items that I briefly discussed or other items that you may want to talk about or may have questions about. So we do have a couple of mics floating around here, so if you have a question or comment, if you would just raise your hand or stand up, and they'll come to you and the mic so everyone can hear the question. So with that, do we have a first question or comment? Right here, Logan.
When I attended last year's annual meeting, I was under the impression they was going to have automatic meter readers, so I wouldn't have to go out there and meet that reader every month. That's my first question. My other question is this: I live over to Shea Lake. I have a residence that the wife and I live in, and then I also have a little cabin, one-bedroom cabin on the lake. And that cabin almost got flooded out and destroyed here on this couple weeks ago on a Friday. The lake overflowed. But my question is this: why do I have to pay so much more money I'm the guy that reads the meter on both places? Why do I have to pay so much more money on that little cabin than I do on my own residence?
Okay, thank you for those questions and comments. And thank you for attending our meeting last year. So I'll address the AMI, or the automated metering infrastructure. And you are right, we talked about bringing on a consultant, and this process started, I'd say probably March of last year. So what we did, we actually brought on an outside consulting firm to take a look at the feasibility and the payback of an AMI system. While internally we were very confident that an AMI system was the right thing to do, because there's so many efficiencies and cost savings that come with that. And we are one of the last electric utilities in Michigan that do not have an AMI system. So we brought on a consultant. They did a feasibility study. That feasibility study showed us that it was indeed a good investment. Payback period was about 6 to 7 years, which in the electric utility industry is a very short time period. So then we continued on. Again, there are a lot of different AMI systems, and we wanted to make sure that we got the right one to fit our system. And we don't have the expertise to evaluate and know of every system, so we brought on the same consulting firm to sort of guide us in the process of selecting the proper vendor and technology. So that process has been ongoing. We started with about 9 vendors and different technologies, and then we narrowed it down to 3 finalists. And then we continued to dig into those technologies, and we just recently awarded, or we recently decided which vendor we're going with, which is Census. They use a 900 licensed megawatts, 900 megawatts, megahertz, I'm sorry, system. So right now, where we are in that process is we are finalizing the language for the contracts. Hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have contracts signed, purchase orders placed for the equipment. And the next step will be, once the equipment comes in, we will start installing that around Ubley. We plan on setting up the Ubley circuit out of our Ubley substation first. We hope to have that rolling by fall. Hopefully by the end of 2019, the end of this year, that system will be operational. And once we have all the bugs worked out of that and we're assured that it's working like it's supposed to, we're going to put the pedal to the metal and start full deployment next year. We may not get through the whole system in 2020, but we'll definitely wrap it up in 2021. So that's where we are with that. Did that answer that? Yeah. Okay. Next question, the gentleman has two residents. One's in Shea Lake. So And obviously, we've gotten a lot of rain, and it's unfortunate that the area was flooded out. But the question was why you have to pay more money for the second meter? Is that okay? As opposed to your first meter, especially since you're the one that's providing the meter readings for us on a monthly basis. So we have different rate classifications. A certain rate for your normal home or your residence, and then if you happen to have a second home, it's actually a seasonal home. Those seasonal homes under our tariffs are charged a higher meter charge. And the reason for that is most seasonal homes do not use as much energy as a regular home. But we still have the same maintenance, we still pay the same taxes, so there's an additional cost. So in our rate structure, it's designed for seasonal homes to pay a higher meter charge than the residential meters.
On the seasonal home, which that is a seasonal home, I guess. The only reason I keep that little cabin there is I have 5 daughters and they're all married, and in case they want to come up and visit us, we don't have enough room in our home to keep them. Or some of my grandkids come up, I keep that for company. Now, my question is that a state law that you have to do that, or is that a management law from Plum Electric that you have to charge more money?
So, the question was, is it a state law that we have to charge higher for seasonal, or is it up to management? It's in our tariffs, approved tariffs. They're approved by the board. But let me back up and give you a reason why. So every so often, and it's been probably 3 or 4 years, we have an outside consulting firm come in and do a cost of service study. And what they do is they take a look at the expenses that we have throughout our system and take a look at the revenue that we bring in from different rate classifications. And the goal of this study is to show us that what each rate classification should be fairly paying. Because when we and the board make a decision, it's a decision in the best interest of the co-op and all the members as a whole. It's not the best decision for one particular group of people or one member. So everyone has to pay their fair share of covering their own expenses. So the cost of service study shows us what the true cost should be for each rate classification, and then we use that to create and modify and revise our tariffs.
One more question. I suppose that I was a farmer and I found 1,000 acres and I own 3 or 4 different barns around in different locations. Do I have to pay a higher rate in one barn than I do in another barn?
Again, the question is an assumption that maybe someone has 3 or 4 different accounts and them being on farms, different farm accounts. Will they be required to pay the higher surcharge on those other meters? So the answer to your question is, again, each member has one residence, which is normal, and then the rest would be either seasonal or we actually have farm accounts too. But thank you for all your good questions. Anything else?
Dallas, can you tell me how long or when they put into effect the pedestal that needs to be put up on the property when something is found wrong on a pole and everything comes off your pole and goes on to the resident's pedestal? When did that take place? Yeah,
the question is regarding to an electric service. In the past, we allowed a member to attach their meter base and their equipment to our pole. We changed that a few years ago, and the reason we changed it was really, again, looking out for the best interest of our members. Because what had happened before is, if we had to replace that pole, you would have to hire an electrician to move that or move it yourself. So there was an additional cost for us to allow us to maintain our system. So we implemented that a couple of years ago, and so now we we require you to not, we don't allow you to attach to our pole. We allow you to set up a pedestal, 5 to 10 feet away from our transformer pole. And then we run a short underground, piece of underground cable to feed that. So if we did have to replace that transformer in the future, you wouldn't have to touch your equipment. So that's the reason why we did it, and again, it's been a couple of years.
First of all, I want to thank the guys because it was a cold December night when our lights started to flicker in the house and we were getting brownouts. They came out and they checked everything all out. And I want to put out kind of a plea to people that don't understand that and don't know about it. Our wiring on your pole was totally shot. The covering was gone. Water was going into the meters. It was a mess. So I don't know how many people have been living in the same place for a long time and haven't paid any attention to that, but you might want to check it out, because then at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon you won't have a brownout and the guys won't have to come out and check it out. We did put up the pedestal because that was required, but we were very thankful that it happened the way it happened and that there was no fire or anything else occurred because of it. So now we're all set. But it's just something that people need to look forward, or to check into, because when you have to hire that electrician to come and put that pedestal up, it's not a cheap venture. And it's something that you might need to plan ahead for and be looking at. But I'm glad that it happened the way it happened, and I'm very grateful that the guys were there to check it out and tell us what we needed to do, and so it worked out great.
Appreciate those comments, and I think too, if there's equipment on our pole, probably a lot of people think, well, that's not mine, that's Thumb Electric's, and yeah, it's falling apart, but it's not my responsibility. So I think that too will help by putting a pedestal in, separating it from our infrastructure. That'll definitely help. And it isn't cheap to hire an electrician. I'm not sure if it's cheap to do anything these days, but we may have some low interest loan funds available that we can add on to your electric bill if that's an option someone may want down the road. Thanks for your comments and questions. Anything else?
Quick question. Our barn has a couple of the old vapor dusk to dawn lights. If we switch those out, how much money would we be saving, and what would be available to replace it with?
Yeah, so the question was, she has an old mercury vapor dusk to dawn light. Is it one of ours or yours? It's yours. So we have a dusk to dawn light program where we own, we maintain, and we install the dusk to dawn light on one of our lights. That's an option if you wanted to go that route. We do not put up mercury vapor or high pressure sodiums anymore. They are strictly all LED lights. They're much more efficient. And the cost per month to have that service, I think it's $10.52 for a meter, which we own, we maintain, and we install. And the electricity, the little bit of electricity that it uses, is not metered. So that's one option. The other option is if you wanted to maintain control of that light, you could replace it yourself. I would encourage you to replace it with an LED dusk to dawn light. And I know we have available energy efficiency rebates and money that could help you, assist you, and pay for some of that. So, thank you for that question.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Well, what I find out from these smart meters, the people that's got them put on already, that your electric bill is going to go up because the meter reads different than what it is when you read the meter. And so if you think it's inconvenient that you got to read your meter and send it in to the company, well, you'll find out once they put these smart meters on how much you saved by not having a smart meter on. I mean, it's more convenient for the company, but it ain't going to do you a whole lot of good in your pocketbook. Thank you.
All right, thanks for those comments. I appreciate that. Let me touch on a couple things. So the old meters, which is an old electromechanical meter, and there's a lot of them out there, but we've already replaced a lot of them with solid state electronic meters. The old meters, the comment that the gentleman made is true, that a solid state meter will actually read a little bit more. And that's because an old electromechanical meter has a disc that turns, and so what has to happen before that disc even turns is there's a magnetic field that has to be created. So you're actually using, for anyone that's has an old meter like that, when you're using low energy or low consumption, you're probably not even being metered what you should be, because some of that is being used to create the magnetic field. So it is a fact that solid state or electronic meters do read low usage. They actually register low usage better than electromechanical. So that's one thing. The other thing is, with the AMI system, again, there's a lot of advantages to have a system. One of the biggest advantages for you, the member, will be you will not have to go out to that meter every month and take that reading and provide that reading for us. We've had a lot of people express their concern about having to, climb through a snowbank in the middle of winter to read that meter. But what also happens when you, the member, reads the meter, if you're like me, you forget to send in the meter reading every month at the same time. And what happens what occurs when that happens is, one billing period you may have 20 days, another billing period you may have 40 days, and we get a majority of our high bill complaints or concerns as a direct result of that. Someone looks at their meter or bill that had 20 days of consumption, they're not looking at the number of days, they're looking at the bottom line, which shows how much they have to send us. And that may be $200. And then you look at the other one that has 40 days, that may be twice as high as the previous month. Something must be going on. So we get a lot of phone calls there. The office staff spends a lot of time working with the members trying to resolve that. I'm not saying that there are other issues that may cause a high bill, and we also do home energy audits for that. I guess that's my response to that. Also, again, AMI has been around for years. There have been utilities using AMI systems for decades. We are a pretty conservative group here at the co-op, your co-op. Our area is pretty conservative. We're not always the first one to jump in with both feet. We rather sit back, watch others, and really watch them resolve the issues that may pop up with something new. So again, we're moving into it this year. There are some utilities that are looking at replacing their system that they've had in place for 10 or 15 years. So not only have we been able to sit back and watch all the bugs get worked out and really have them fine-tune the systems, we didn't have to spend that money 15, 20 years ago, and now we re-spend it again. But there's a lot of other advantages to an AMI system. I'll just touch on a couple of them. Again, we talked about the meter reading, and if you get propane services from us, meter propane services, we'll be able to utilize this system and read your meters there, so you won't have to read your meter. We'll get a reading automatically every 30 days, so you'll have a billing cycle for 30 days. We do have a lot of members that struggle paying their monthly bills, and we work with them to try to connect them to some available funds, whether it's state or federal money, to assist them in paying their electric bill. But eventually, if we don't get paid, we need to shut them off. And there's a process that we have to go through, and we go through that process. But ultimately, if we don't shut them off, everyone else is paying for that, them. So right now, what we do is, we go through the process, try to, get people to pay. If not, make arrangements to at least pay something, and then go through the process that we're required to do before we disconnect. And then On the day we disconnect, we send a truck out there and shut their meter off. Truck goes back to the warehouse or another job. Not always, but a lot of times that same day, they come up with the money. So then we have to roll the truck out there again and turn them back on. And this is repeated every month, and we have lots of accounts that this happens to. So with this new system, we'll be able to disconnect from the office, disconnect your service from the office, and then when we receive payment, we'll be able to reconnect your service. Outage detection, right now, we really don't know you're out of power until you pick up the phone or use our smart app to let us know you're out of power. With this system, we will know when there's an outage, and as a result, we'll be able to respond more quickly and hopefully restore that power, maybe even before you even know you're out of power. You know, there's theft and theft detection, meter tampering detection. Unfortunately, we do have people that try to steal power every year from us, and we catch them eventually. But with this system, if somebody's tampering with the meter, we will know on day one. We'll be able to send someone out there. Again, saving the co-op a lot of money. Getting back to the outage detection and seasonal homes, we have a lot of seasonal homes along the lake shore. They're only up on the weekends and maybe once a month, but they also have refrigerators and freezers full of food. And we've received more than one phone call from angry members saying, "Why didn't you tell me I was out of power? I've been out of power for apparently 2 weeks, and all the food in my freezer is spoiled." Well, and again, the system we're on now, we don't know until someone lets us know. With this new system, we can be proactive, restore power, and that food will be saved, and that inconvenience will definitely be saved for the member. I could talk all day about other advantages. Any other questions or comments about AMI? If not, any other questions or comments out there? Yeah.
Dallas, with this electric vehicles coming out now, do we have electric vehicle charging stations in the system, or is there a permitting process to get that done?
Question is, with the electric vehicles coming out, do we have the electric vehicle charging infrastructure throughout our system? So with an electric vehicle, there's 3 ways to charge your vehicle. One, it's called a level 1, and you basically just plug into an outlet, a 120 volt outlet, and charge overnight. It takes a longer period of time. The hybrid vehicle I'm driving, it takes about 8 hours to charge at that level 1. Then there's a level 2, which is a 240 volt charging system, which could be installed at your home, and basically that charges your system, your batteries, about in half the time. And then finally, there's a third charging system called a supercharger, which you're starting to see some of these pop up throughout Myers and some other retail stores. I haven't seen any in our area. I know Bay City, Myers, I know they have some. But a supercharger is you pull in there, it draws a lot of power from the grid, and it charges your battery up within about an hour or so. So those are the 3 things. The answer to your question, Steve, is we don't have any in our system. Currently, we're just utilizing the 120 outlet. That has been discussed as being one of the issues with the EV industry, that there has to be an infrastructure built for these electric vehicles to charge. Well, that turns out it might not be so true, because the majority of the charging is going to be done by members like yourself at home at night. Now, granted, when you're traveling to across the state and you don't have a hybrid, meaning you have a truly 100% electric vehicle, when that battery runs dead, you're out of power and you're not going anywhere. So there needs to be some infrastructure built in there. So we haven't looked at doing anything throughout our system. And that'll be another advantage of the AMI system. Again, as all these electric vehicles start coming onto our system, most likely everyone's going to plug them in when they get home at 5 or 6 o'clock at night and charge them throughout the night. Well, if everyone's charging their electric vehicle at the same time, it's going to put a lot of stress on our system. So we'll be able to offer more dynamic pricing with the AMI system, more time of day. Maybe we'll have an electric vehicle charging rate that, and you can program those cars to charge at different times of the day. So maybe they don't start charging until 12 o'clock at night and they shut off at 5 o'clock in the morning. But there's a lot of things, a lot of new things coming down. And electric vehicles will definitely impact your electric co-op. Did that answer your question, Steve? Thank you.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to thank you so much for being so efficient. I mean, we're out of power a lot less, and we get power back a lot sooner than DTE, and I thank you. I'm so glad I'm from electric.
Thank you.
And my question is, we have some trees in the yard that are getting tall enough to interfere with the wires up, from the pole to. And do you come and trim those, or do you have to cut the whole tree down?
So the question is, obviously I want to repeat her comments about how great our service is, and when we do have outages, the crews respond in a very timely fashion. So again, thank you for that comment. The other question was about trees in her yard growing up into the service wire. I'm assuming it's a service wire that has insulation on. And the question is, can we trim them, or do we have to cut them down? Well, first of all, any trees in our primary distribution along the roads and our transmission, we definitely want those cut down to the ground. We do realize that members and property owners are sometimes sensitive to trees. Maybe their great-grandfather planted a tree, or it was in memory of someone. So we understand some of the reasons not to want to completely trim that to the ground. Again, we're going to try to, if we're out there spending your money, we're going to try to make sure we don't come back and spend more money again. That being said, we do offer a private tree service through Cap and Trees, where if you want us to trim or manicure your trees on your property, they will actually come out and do that, but there would be a fee for that.
This question's on the hot water heater. We get a rebate on when they shut it off. They have a certain time to shut it off. Seems like this summer, every time we wanted to use it, it was shut off, and the price wasn't, we didn't get the same amount as we did when we started, like we shut it off.
Yeah, so the question was regarding our controlled water heater rate. A couple questions. One, what time do we control that? And two, it doesn't look like the member gets as big of a credit on their electric bill as they used to. So first of all, we do control once in a while, depending on which rate you're on. If you're on the energy storage rate, that is being controlled every day. And actually, Logan could probably check to see which rate you're on. But if you're on one of our other controlled, 2-hour, 4-hour, or 6-hour control, we really haven't been controlling much because of our wholesale power contract, the way it's structured. But if you're saying you're running out of water, there may be something else wrong, and you're lucky you're sitting next to Logan, who is the man in charge of that. But it could be a heating element that's shorted out or something, but we'd be happy to look at that. And then to address your second question regarding the amount you get back or get credited every month, it has gone down over the years. Years ago, when we had a different power contract, different structure, controlling load is a lot more important. So there was a bigger value in that. Fast forward to today, load management is not as critical as it is. We don't get penalized for going over or exceeding a certain amount, so the value is less. And again, every time we in the board look at different rates and tariffs and policies, we look at what's best for the co-op as a whole. If we kept those rates high, pretty much everyone else would be subsidizing that high payment. So we lowered that over the years to more accurately reflect the savings that the co-op is actually realizing from the program. Thank you for the question.
Good morning. have another AMI question. Interference, I think you talked about 900 megahertz, I think you're on. Is that always on? I'm sure it's being looked at for like the internet in your house, things like that. Is it interfering? How does it communicate?
Yeah, so the question is communications on our AMI that we will be deploying later this year. Again, it's a licensed spectrum, 900 megahertz. So the meter will communicate with the tower, and then the tower will then transmit back the data back to our office. So the meter, when it talks to the communication tower, the transmission is less than 2 seconds. So if we set up our program to read once a day, in a 24-hour period, that will be transmitting less than 2 seconds. More likely, we'll probably set it up to read and download the data 4 times a day. So with that, that meter will be talking to the communication tower for less than 8 seconds. Every day, yes. Yep. Question back there.
Okay, on the tree trimming and the power lines that wire everything down to the ground, after a period of time you start getting all these saplings coming back up on vacant property. What kind of time frame do you go with coming back and re-cutting everything?
Great question, and I'll just repeat it. After we go through a circuit and hopefully remove every tree, you have small growth and new growth starting to come up. And if we just ignore that, I mean, as much moisture as we've gotten this year, you'll see 8 to 10 feet of growth a year, and that'll be growing right back up in there. So what we do, we follow up with a spray program, and again, CAP Tree Services come through, and I believe it's 2 years later, or maybe 3, that they come back and do a initial spraying of the circuit that they just cleared. And then our employees will keep an eye on those circuits to see if, well, first of all, we'll check the following year to make sure that what we paid for, we got good results. And if there's still growth or stuff that's not killed, they'll come back out on their own dime to reapply that. So we try to follow up with a spray program, and then keep an eye 2 or 3 years later, and then keep an eye on the program or the circuits to see if we have to come back again later and hit it. So that's the process. Okay, one question in the front here, and then we'll take a couple more. We have to keep the meeting rolling. Great questions.
When the AMI program takes effect, you said probably have it installed by 2020 all over the whole Plum area. And I'm in Florida for 6 months. Are you automatically, you said this thing is talking to, the tower is talking to my meter 100% of the time. Now, if that your meter is not talking, does that tell you that my electricity is off automatically? And I'm in Florida. Will you come out and repair the problem, or have I got to have somebody call in and say I'm out of electricity?
Yeah. So another AMI question regarding if he's in Florida for 6 months, will we automatically read that every month? The answer is yes. And if it doesn't communicate, we'll have an alarm at the office saying, hey, this meter did not communicate. There's something wrong. It'll be a communication problem because if it's an outage, we will actually get a different warning or a different alarm. And even if you're out of power, we're able still to be able to get that alarm transmitted because there's a capacitor. It's like a battery that stores a certain amount of power that can transmit even after a power outage. So yes, everyone, once this is installed in 2020, 2021, everyone will get a monthly bill with a 30-day billing period. And if you're out of power, you'll be out of power. I mean, we'll know that. One other thing that it will allow you to do, too, is you, as a member, can view your hourly data. If you go to our, we have an app that you can download for free, and you can look at your meter data and your hourly consumption to help you better manage your consumption and to help better understand when you're using something. And if something's way out of line from the previous month, you can start digging into things saying, what's going on here? Is there something wrong? Or maybe I had Shade Lake was shut down and flooded out and I had all my family taking showers at my house. And maybe that would be the reason. So it's going to be a very powerful tool for you to use as well. Yep. All right, a couple more questions.
With them smart meters, are we going to get charged for that service, or you guys going to take the rest of the cover the charge for it?
Question is on the AMI system that we're looking at deploying. Will you be charged for that? So again, this investment is a capital investment that the board every year they approve about $4 or $5 million of capital improvement in your system. Sometimes we rebuild lines. Sometimes we buy new bucket trucks. This year we're making an investment in an AMI system. So you will not see an increase in your rates because of this project. It's just another capital investment project that was approved by the board.
Yeah, I have a question. My son had a brand new pole installed in his property out in Detroit, and so the line is actually only a half-inch off the roof. So he called and they said that they can't do nothing about it, and he called Mauer Electric, and they said that they can't touch anything until after the meter. So how does he get that fixed, I guess? Because he's worried if it gets snow on it, it's going to catch a house on fire because it's right on the tap. It could rub a hole in the line.
Yeah, great question. If it's ours, which would be before the meter, it's our responsibility to take care of it. Now, if it's attached to the house, we have to have an attachment point high enough to attach to so it makes the proper, there's proper clearance. If it's after the meter, it would be up to you or your electrician. But make sure, Logan, if you could get the gentleman's information, and we'll check that out. Yep. One more question here, and then we'll wrap things up.
You mentioned the acre program. I'd like a little more talk on that. And the other question is, does this acre program have a board of directors that do the planning for that? And do you endorse candidates for election?
Okay, thank you for those questions. First of all, I'll answer your last question first. And do we endorse anyone for elections? No, we do not endorse anyone for a certain position. We may have good relationships, and so Thumb Electric does not directly endorse an individual. But that's what this acre program is all about. It's a political action committee, a PAC. And what the PACs or political action committees funds are for is people put in money to this. In this case, it's acre for electric cooperatives, and the money actually goes to Washington. 49% of that money returns back to the state, where our statewide association, MECA, then uses that money to support candidates in Lansing or in Washington that favorably represent your interests. So again, Thumb Electric has no involvement with acre. We do not have a committee or a board that oversees that. Again, like any political action committee, there are rules, federal rules, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And we have, and again, because politics are a very important part of your organization, the board, 100% of the board participates, 100% of our staff participates. There are some employees that are not allowed. Again, there's some funny rules. But you, as a Thumb Electric member, you can participate in the co-op owners acre program. Did I answer everything for you?
And what is that taken out of your bill?
Oh, yeah, great question. So we have a handful of members that participate in that, and what we do to help facilitate that or make it easier for you If you wanted to contribute $25 a year, we would tack on, what is it, $2 and whatever, every month on your electric bill. So we would collect that on your behalf and then turn it in on your behalf. So we have some members, contributing $100, others more, and others 25. But great questions. Okay, one more question, and then we'll move on to the meeting.
What is the current solar program that's being offered?
Okay, solar programs, we currently have 2 programs offered. One is our distributed renewable program, which allows you, the member, to install and own and maintain a solar array on your property. It's meant to allow you to offset your consumption. You buy it from the co-op. It's not meant for you to produce more than what you use. So there's a limit to the size that can be put in. And it's based on your annual consumption of electricity. That program we've had in place for years. Last year we started a new program. It's called a buy all, sell all program. And this program allows a member to produce more than what they use. We've had members in the past say, well, geez, why can't I be your power producer? You're buying your power from a wholesale power supplier. I'm your member. Why can't I produce power? Great question. The other program did not allow that, so this program actually allows you to put up to a 50 kW system to produce power. The difference is you don't offset your consumption. Everything you produce, you sell to the co-op for 6 cents kilowatt hour. And then you buy from us at your normal rate. And then the third program, we're finally, and again, that program, you own and you maintain the solar array on your property. You pay property taxes on it. This third program is a community solar program, and it's for those that may not have property, may not have a rooftop to put solar array on, or may not have the financial means to make that big investment. So community solar, we're going to install a small solar array, and we'll offer that to you. If you wanted to buy into a subscription for 1 panel or 2 panels, we don't have the program set up yet, but there'll be a fee for you to buy into it, and then what you get out of that is the output of those panels credited to your electric bill. The numbers we're looking at, again, we're not final, we haven't finalized it yet, but again, it's going to be looking at maybe a 15, 20-year payback in that. Again, the paybacks aren't huge. They're not quick on solar. Obviously, if you can get some federal tax incentives, some other incentives, that helps bring the cost down. But again, we're looking at probably a 15 to 20-year payback. And again, it's just another option for you, our members. And again, these aren't programs that we created. A lot of the co-ops in the state have been using these programs, and their members have been using some of them. So we sort of looked at what was working for them and sort of copied what programs they were offering. Okay. I'd love to sit here and answer more questions because this is the best part of the annual meeting for me. But I do need to step aside. Again, appreciate your questions, your comments. I appreciate your interest in your co-op. I ask you to stay engaged with the staff at Thumb Electric, stay engaged with your board of directors, and stay engaged with your elected officials on not only elected matters, but any matters. So with that, my report is complete, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.